All right, everyone put their hands together for David, please.
Hey, oh, yeah, right, good, microphones. Hey everybody, thanks again, Drew. Thanks for coming. He's come a long way, that's nice. All right, do that thing, do this thing. We're going to talk about Node, but before we talk about that, we are going to talk about the slides, because that's exciting. This is using Field-JS, and this is also using a plugin that I built for it a little while ago, because at the old venue, I always just show it really late, and then I get stuck behind like a pillar, and I couldn't see the screen, and I got really mad at that. So if you go to that web address, or scan that QR code on your phone or your tablet or whatever, you will get my slides, but they will update themselves in real time. So that's a thing. This is really important though, I think, for people with vision impairment, because slides are fun, but if you were blind or vision impaired, this would be a really crappy experience. Whereas if you can get it on your device, you can use a screen reader, or you can magnify it, or use whatever tools you want to use. So the reason I talk about this is I would really love a pull request to go to the Reveal.js project, or at least someone just have a look through and go, does this actually make any sense for people with screen readers? Because it's a single page app, and I'm not sure it's going to work even slightly with a screen reader. So that would be a nice thing to know. So if anybody is super good on ARIA or is vision impaired themselves and wants to take a look at it, yeah, I already hit him up. That would be super cool if you went and did that. So on with the things. Is anyone still writing down the URL? You're happy? We're good? Cool. Who the hell am I? I co-founded Pinion. We put advertisements in video games. I'm still the CTO there because we're still going. We reach a lot of people sometimes, which is fun. So I'm not Google, but look, we do run some servers and do some stuff on the internet. You can also give me money and I will do stuff for you if you want. I do consulting and contracting as well as my day job. So that's cool. What's a nodeJS? I kind of assume that everybody is familiar with Node because it's been kind of a big deal for a little while. But can I just get to gauge the room? Can I get a quick show of hands of people that have actually written something in Node? Okay, so most people, and I get. Sorry. Yeah, it's just like Ruby. It's exactly like that. And I write in CoffeeScript, so more like Ruby. Don't get mad. So yeah, it's JavaScript on the server, asynchronous model. What's kind of interesting about JavaScript and Node when you talk about deployment is that it lends itself really well to a service-oriented architecture. So this is where, rather than just having one big monolithic app that does all the things, which is still a valid thing, instead you sort of decompose your application into various different services that run in different places on the web. So instead of just talking to each other via memory or via a database, they talk to each other via HTTP. And this ends up being a nice thing because you can scale different parts of your application independently. You can, rewrite small chunks of your application when you find out they're horribly broken, rather than having to deal with the entire app as one unit. So this is a good way, I think, to write backend applications. There's a lot of support for it. But it means that sometimes the current ways we have of deploying things are awful. So we have, the new world, where everything is called, I literally moved recently from Cloudflare to CloudFront. We need better names in the new world. But we have new deployment things and new cloud-based services, and that's good. Yes. So there's two sort of facets of cloud-based deployment. There's IaaS. If you're not familiar with that, that's infrastructure as a service. So what that does is basically a virtual machine. It's exactly like your computer, only it's in an Amazon data center or a Microsoft data center or a Rackspace data center. It is shared between a whole bunch of different users. So you take one physical machine, you install a whole lot of virtual machines on it, and they behave pretty much as if they were just a computer. So you install things on them in the same sort of way as you used to, but you don't care about the underlying hardware because that's somebody else's problem. And it's a little bit slower because it's shared with other people, but it's not a big deal. So it's a standard sort of environment. PaaS is kind of like a single purpose computer where it only ever does one thing. So you say, I want you to run this Node app, or I want you to run this Ruby app. And this is how you should set it up, and this is how it should go. And it's not like a regular computer that you can log into and check out. Your interface with it is purely through configuration and saying, okay, this is what you should run and this is how you should run it. And you hope that all works. So it's much simpler, but it's much more limited. But often this simplicity is kind of power because it gives you basically less ways to break it and less ways to do things wrong. So that's kind of a quick, this is where we're at with AWS and PWS because we're going to be talking about it a little bit. Is everybody cool? Good with the two things? Good news. So we're going to talk briefly about use cases. And we're going to talk smugly about the thing that I did because I'm kind of proud of it. I think it's fun. So use cases. AWS, this is your computer somewhere else. A very multi-purpose, very general, very flexible system. So because it's so flexible, you often need a lot of skills and resources to be able to do it right. You need to make sure that thing is secure. You need to make sure that you're not going to get hacked and somebody else is going to use your wonderful, powerful, general-purpose computer in the cloud to do stuff that they want. If your app is monolithic, these are still a great choice. If all you want to do is install one thing and have that run, it's pretty easy. That's okay. Or if you just love Chef, if you just love writing Ruby configuration in Chef, you should do that. So, in the beginning, I did everything on AWS's, or I did stuff on dedicated machines, or on standard VPS. Things get out of hand really fast as soon as you start to scale, because with just a standard VPS, you're configuring everything manually. You say, all right, here's a new computer. I'm going to log in. I'm going to install this stuff. I'm going to configure it by hand. And then when it comes time to put in a second machine into your cluster, you want to scale out, or something breaks and you need to rebuild it, you're ruined, completely ruined, because what exactly did I do? I sort of took some notes when I was setting this thing up, but what version was that thing? And ruined, utterly ruined. So, we move on to configuration management. And that's basically like great, notes that you take when you set a machine up. So you use a package like Chef or like Puppet. Don't use Puppet, I don't like it. I don't like Chef either, but it's better. And that's where you say, okay, here is a very, very detailed list of instructions on exactly how this machine should be set up. And then you pass it to a tool like that, and Chef calls them recipes and cookbooks and other stuff. And you say, this is exactly all the things you need to do in minute detail about how to make this machine like all my others and make it run my thing. And this is a pretty good place to be. There's nothing really wrong with this, especially if you're running a monolithic app, because stuff's not going to change that often. Your version dependencies, it's okay, and this is a credible solution. But if you're doing a service-oriented architecture, if you're doing a lot of different things, it becomes really, 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 really painful. That's where the giant pain in the sack comes in. Because as soon as you've written a new service that you want to deploy, you need to spin up a new machine and tell it in minute detail, I need you to install Node, I need you to install Nginx, I need you to install this database, I need you to install these things at this version. And you've written like 40 lines of Node to just be like a little discrete service that parses XML or something. I don't know what you want to do with it. And then you're writing off like half a day or a day just to write out the Chef recipes for configuration. So if you're doing this kind of thing, I haven't got the patience for it. I don't recommend you develop the patience for it because it's painful. But I don't want to run down configuration management. It is a good thing. Very, very flexible. The other thing is that when you're running Node, you don't often need that flexibility. Like the beautiful thing about Node is that it tends to be a fairly well self-contained unit. Like the web server is right in the application, right? I mean, Chef is awesome if you want to run PHP or something, where you're like, all right, you need to get these repos with these files and this code, and then you need to have Apache configured in this certain way, or maybe you want to install, Node is just one thing. It's just one thing. You don't need that much flexibility. So, PWSs come in. This is the next place I move to. It's cheaper than hiring a dedicated sysadmin, but you still got to pay for it. Someone is still doing this work. So there's a lot of PWSs out there. There's nodeJS, there's Microsoft have got their one. They're good, and this is great if you're in sort of a mid-tier, like you've got, like you're making a bit of revenue or you've got the cash to, sort of spend on this thing, and you want it really, really simple, and you want to be able to scale really, really fast. These are amazing because you can just go, all right, well, you've got my code, now make 20 more of those. And it will just go and do it. You know, someone will even do it on demand. nodeJS has a mode where you can just say, well, look, if things get busy, just make more things, and it will do that. It's amazing. But I tried that. Went through lots and lots of PWS vendors, lots of solutions, hit a lot of brick walls. Because the trouble with the PWS is that it's absolutely fantastic at what it does, but the second you try and step outside of that, you're in for a world of hurt. You know, if you want a slightly different version of Node that Microsoft hasn't quite updated to yet, you're in real trouble. You know, if they have a certain configuration parameter set up in a way that just doesn't work for you or that you don't like, that's it, go home. You know, you've got no recourse to be able to change a lot of stuff because you're in somebody else's playground. So you can go to a different vendor and you can do that, and it's okay, but I got really frustrated with that, going to different vendors and different vendors. So I got real mad and I wrote some code. So I wrote Field-Marshal, which has been a big giant yak shave. I wanted to deploy my code, and I didn't want to spend all this time worrying about configuring it, so I spent all this time writing a configuration system, because we're developers and we're fundamentally not bright. So, I had a few goals for it, and I think I've hit them reasonably well. You know, it's still very early days. I want it to be open source. It's pretty easy. You just license your stuff permissively. It's BSD licensed. So good. I really want people to get involved. It should be robust, because this is a deployment thing. So if this breaks, all your stuff breaks, because this is running all your stuff. So you really want your deployment system to be stable. So I've got lots of tests, and they all pass. And it's on Travis CI, so you can see that they pass, and everyone gets told if I screw up. Simple, because the less surface area you have, the less surface area you have for problems, and that's a good thing. So Field-Marshal and Cavalry together, which are sort of the two workers that make up this system, together they're about 500 lines of code each. So the whole thing, from sort of soup to nuts of push your thing with Git and have it deployed on an array of workers, is 1,000 lines of code. So it's fairly easy to parse and get your head around exactly what's happening, which, if you're going to trust it to run your stuff, is something that you want to do. And it also should be portable, because the idea of Field-Marshal is that it's your own PWS software that you deploy on somebody else's IaaS, or your own computer if you want, I don't care. But probably you're going to be deploying it on somebody else's IaaS. So if you decide you don't like your AWS vendor for whatever reason, you want to move from, you know, Amazon to Rackspace to Windows Azure to Jimba, these are all vendors that I have done this with, you should be able to. You know, it should just work anywhere, which it pretty much does. So, into some actual code stuff. This is what we call manifest. So this is how you tell Field-Marshal, this is what I've got and this is how I want you to run it. So this is sort of configuration, the declarative configuration part of PWS. So rather than something like Chef or, you know, a manual configuration where you write the code and you say install this, you just say, all right, this is how I want the world to look, and I want you to go and realize that on actual servers. So you can say, this is actually a production manifest from one of our projects. It's a project called MOTD. So I want 3 instances of it running. So, you know, in Field-Marshal you have N machines. Take those, figure it out. I just want you to run 3 of this thing. I don't really care where they are. This is the command that you're going to use to start it. Node server.js. This is the commit you should run. You can also give it char if you want, like a git commit char, or you can just tell it, look, just whatever the latest thing is that I gave you, go and run that. No, that would be nice, and you can submit a pull request. But yeah, I haven't needed that functionality yet, so I haven't built it in. Yeah, it's nice CoffeeScript though. Okay, so a quick aside, I'm not using any of the class stuff in CoffeeScript because I think it's a bit gross as well. It's all simple prototypal inheritance. It's just that there's less curly braces and there's less for I equals 0, which just gets tiring. I love JavaScript. I think it's a good system. I don't want to write Ruby. I want to write JavaScript, but I don't want to write curly braces all over the place. Unless it's JSON, because you know you have to.
There's CSOM apparently.
Oh God, really? Oh. Well, maybe I'll love that too. You can pass in environment variables. So in the PWS land, this is how you tell your application code things that it needs to know. So This is a special command, a magic word to Field-Marshal to say, look, assign a port, and we'll get to the routing layer as to why that's important in a moment. But say, look, just assign a port, tell my application what it is, and then your application will start itself on that port, hopefully. If you told your application to do that, that's your problem. But you know, you can just pass in arbitrary things here, and they'll get passed as environment variables to your app. There's a setup stage, and this can be just like the command stage, can be anything you want. You know, this is just getting translated into bash on the server. So npm install is, you know, pretty standard flow for node stuff. Or, you know, you can say, you can give it an arbitrary length of commands. You can say git clone this and then do some other stuff. Recommend against it, but if you need to, you can. Field-Marshal also includes a routing layer. So you need to tell it, all right, this is what you should expect things to be going for. You know, if something shows up asking for motd backend.pinion.gg, send it to this thing. Talk about routing in a moment. But this is, rather than, you know, writing pages upon pages of code or, you know, commands to deploy your stuff, this is a way of just saying, this is what I want to happen. You need to go and figure out how to do that software. So, topology. Check out my topology. I've got a satellite and a cloud and a lightning bolt and users, everything. Yeah. So, you need a load balancer of some kind. I don't really care what that is. That's up to you. So, I tend to deploy this behind an Amazon Elastic Load Balancer because it does SSL termination, and that's a nice thing. But that could be DNS round robin. It could be whatever you want. I don't care. All Field-Marshal expects is that traffic is reasonably evenly distributed across its slaves. It doesn't have to be even, but probably should be, because what then happens is you can direct a request to any cavalry slave, and it will then figure out where it needs to go. So this is kind of like how React does things. You can ask a question of any node in the cluster, and React will go and figure out this is where the data lives. So the same thing. If a request shows up for motd-backend.pinion.gg, what we said before, and this machine doesn't happen to be running any instances of that, it will proxy that request over to this. And the user never needs to know about that. So that means that, you know, as long as this has a reasonable awareness of which machines are alive, in case one of them dies, things will always get where they need to go, and you don't need to configure anything outside of these boxes. And you've got Field-Marshal, exacting command and control, because it's a two-module thing. If you wanted, you could write an alternative to Cavalry that got controlled by Field-Marshal or vice versa. You probably don't want to bother, but you could, because everything's just standard HTTP between everywhere. There's no funny protocol here, just HTTP with basic auth. But there's Field-Marshal that does the controlling and Cavalry that does the running, does the work. Make sense? Yeah? Cool. Everywhere. It's just lightning all over the joint. Yeah. Yeah, the mesh routing is important. That's a nice thing. The other nice thing is that if something fails, everything keeps happening. So if Field-Marshal goes away for a few minutes because there's a network intermittent outage or it dies or whatever, the Cavalry slaves will keep doing what they do. It's just that, you know, for example, if an instance dies here, it won't get restarted because Field-Marshal... No, sorry. If an instance dies, it will get restarted. If a whole box goes away, then Field-Marshal needs to tell the other boxes to pick up the slack. But, you know, if 30 seconds goes by because there's an intermittent network outage, we're going to be okay. You know, it's fairly fault tolerant. Any one of these pieces can die, and the world will keep going. So we're going to make it go. I've been talking for too long, and I have less time for the code demo than I expected. But let's go write some code. It'll be fun. So here we have 3 virtual machines running on Amazon. This one is running Field-Marshal, or is going to run Field-Marshal. This one is going to run Cavalry. The other one is also going to run Cavalry. So we're going to have a setup with 1 Field-Marshal node and 2 Cavalry nodes. All I've done to these boxes is those commands. So what we're going to do here is go from start to finish of creating, you know, your own PWAS, and we're going to push some code to it, and it's going to run, and it's going to be great. So all I've done is install node, nginx, make, and git, because those are things that we need. Everything else is going to be all npm. So that's really small, isn't it? So all I'm doing here is going npm install -g Field-Marshal, and here I'm going npm install -g Cavalry. So these get installed globally as executables. And we created a demo Maybe it's okay. I sacrificed a chicken last night, so we should do that. Okay. So the one on the left isn't doing awesome. That's not doing anything. All I'm doing is installing. Hmm? I have a backup swarm, so let's try that. People laughed at me for this. Yeah, that's whoa. I don't know what F does. Does anyone know what F does? Cavalry. That's racist. Alright, things are going to get installed. That's good. So, we're going to push some code to this. We're going to be happy. I have some notes. I have some notes that are using the wrong domain names now. Please tell me Swarm1 is working. Oh, what makes you like this?
Hit a cache clear and then try it.
Yeah. So what is it, like? Ugh.
SU do npm cache clear.
Yeah. No, I've ruined it too much for that. So that's a shame. Okay. We can, oh, my AWS window is closed. Everything has gone horribly wrong. That'll do. 6. Okay. We can recover. I'm just going to get the correct host names. Talk amongst yourselves. Something. Plan B. Awesome. Okay, alright. Oh, the database is still building. What makes you like this? Oh, LevelDB is fantastic. It's amazing. I wish it didn't take so long to build. Alright, so I'm just creating a tiny bit of groundwork. We've made a directory called manifest, because that's where your manifests are going to go. And we just created a blank .json with nothing in it. Just because it freaks out if it can't find any manifests at all. So we're then going to start Field-Marshal. So what we're doing is saying, passing an environment variable saying this is where you are, this is your host name that the external world can reach you by, and then just Field-Marshal command. So that will start, and it will start whinging that there are no slaves available, because there aren't. Yeah, no slaves available. So let's start some slaves. Let's make it happy. So we're going to start 2 of those. And we're going to say master host is this. So this is where you can reach your master, cavalry, the command, and -- create, just because it needs to create a couple of directories and files in its current working directory. So just saying, yes, that is cool, you can do that, and I don't mind. Alright, so you see Field-Marshal has now stopped whinging because it has slaves available, and the cavalry nodes aren't whinging that they can't reach their master, which is good news. Things is working. So here we have some code. Really basic, just a little test node server. All it's going to do is take in a HTTP web request and write something back to us, telling us a little bit about itself, so that we can sort of prove there's nothing on the sleeve, and that things are running the way I say they are. So git push, just what's in the current directory, to HTTP basic auth at this place with this information, and it's done. So all we've done is taken some code that's in Git, pushed it to Field-Marshal, and Field-Marshal now knows about that code, and it's already propagated it to, not those ones because they're ruined, it's already propagated it to the cavalry slaves. So let's put that into practice. Let's go to Field-Marshal, and we're going to give it a manifest file. So manifest test1.json. Yes. Alright, so we want 3 instances of the test1 repo that I just pushed. I'm going to run node server.js. It doesn't need any setup, so it's just echo, go away. Latest commit, random port, and this is just a domain that I've host filed, so it'll work. So do that, You see that? It's already spawning it. So it spawned on these things. Oh no, it's not test 1 because I'm using plan B because things were ruined. No, it's going to be test 3. That was the other ruined cavalry.
We don't talk about it.
Alright. Cool. Maybe? Alright. So I also have this little web UI, which is also running with the wrong host name, so that's awesome. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Oh, why don't you love me, demo gods? No, I didn't. Alright, so this is the production one. You can see it actually does work. So
what happens if we press stop on any of these?
on certain ones we can, not that one. That one's alright. It'll go away, and then it'll come back somewhere else. Yeah, it came back. Yay, because they're all in spec. So that's cool. Maybe. I don't know if this is going to work. Let's find out. test3.sydjsdemo.com. Many typos? No. Good. No. Ruined. No. Okay. I know what we can do. Oh, yeah. No, it should be fine. It should run in the background. Yeah, no. Maybe. Yes, this is okay. Yeah, spawn one. Good. Okay, there is going to be a time that we have to give up. Come on, just be cool.
What about test 4? I saw test 4 there.
Yeah, look, we can try that. No, because it doesn't expect any. No, yeah, maybe everything's ruined. Maybe a code demo was too ambitious. I don't know why that doesn't work. Yeah, look, everything's working, and that's fun. Sorry? No, DNS cache hasn't been a problem in the past. Oh, was it still? You idiot! Why did you say test 2 to me? You put it in my head. I blame everyone, it's not me. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you can't type while other people are looking at you. Vim only works in isolation. Cool. Not test 4. I'm just testing you. Test 3. Ah!
Try 2.
Yeah, no, maybe 2 will work. Who knows?
Maybe try nodeJS down.
Alright.
That wouldn't work for Brisbane.
So honest, that is running somewhere. Promise. Yay. So everything is in discrete modules. Fun thing about Quartermaster is it's actually completely client-side. So if you're not running this yourself and you want a web interface, you can just go to quartermaster.pinion.gg. It doesn't persist any state to the server. All the state sits in local storage. So you just put it in there and it happens. Because the idea of this is that everything should be able to exist in a modular way. We talked about that a bit tonight. So Field-Marshal is its own thing, Cavalry is its own thing, anything can talk to those on HTTP. Nothing works. Has anyone got any questions? Again.
It's a chance for clapping.
Oh yeah, no. I have a Sharky. Look at me Sharky. Ah, that's my boy.
He's not going to be proud of you.
No, he's too young to know. He doesn't know how computers work. It's great.
Is his name Marshall as well?
No, Jack. Doesn't know Jack.
Do we have any? We have a. Alan's question's not from Aaron Powell. Fantastic.
No, you're mean. All right.
Here comes the microphone. So it's more of a comment. You guys got no faith. When there was no cavalry running and you started up Field-Marshal,
Yep.
why doesn't it say send in the cavalry?
That is a missed opportunity.
Exactly.
I'm very upset. I will accept a pull request that does nothing but that.
Okay, so serious question.
Yeah.
why not just make the mesh topology stuff as a module and then run this on Heroku?
I did do the mesh topology as modular. The reason I don't want to run on Heroku is because they want the money. And also you run into that lack of flexibility. So the flexibility isn't just in your routing layer, because like Heroku does routing, you know, that's cool, they can do that. I mean, there was that big Rab Genius blow up, but whatever. The issue is more that, you know, for example, we do a lot of video transcoding, and that's something that is deployed on this, and that needs a vconf, which is just FFmpeg, to be installed on the system. And that's not something you're going to get on Heroku, that's not what they do. But with this, it's fine. You know, I just make sure that all my Cavalry nodes have FFmpeg or avconf available, and it does, and it do. So, that.
Okay. But then follow-up question, why don't you just use Upstart and Forever? Or...
So you can. Maybe I didn't talk about this enough. So the really nice thing about Field-Marshal is that it will handle any one of the nodes going away, and it will handle arbitrary scaling. So the thing is, we've got all these processes. If Cavalry US4 was to die, and it's running all these things, Field-Marshal would seamlessly redistribute that workload back to the other Cavalry workers. So you don't need to say run one of these on every single computer, because maybe that's overkill. Like, you know, stuff like Plivo, I only run 2 of, because all that does is respond to Plivo about where I want phone calls to go. There's no load on it. So if one of them goes away, I don't want 2 for redundancy. But if one goes away, it will respawn it. Not necessarily on Cavalry US4. We'll just go to, yeah, you see that? So it was running on US4, and it's now said, well, actually, Cavalry US is less loaded now. That is the least loaded node. So I'm going to deploy that on Cavalry US instead.
And so Field-Marshal does that?
Yes. Field-Marshal goes, okay, I've got all these things. They have this much load. This job should go there.
Yeah, cool.
So with a Field-Marshal, can you handle more than one Field-Marshal running for redundancy?
No. I thought about that, and it ended up being a little bit hard to do stuff like, you know, like that load checking, and like, you know, you need some sort of locking to make sure that, well, Plivo's gone away. I don't want both of them to restart it immediately. So you can't have a multi-master situation. You can, like if Field-Marshal goes down for a minute, you don't really care, because chances are you're not going to have whole machines going down every minute, because machines will start themselves up locally. Like if the actual process crashes, then Cavalry has enough smarts in it to say, I'm responsible for this process, it crashed, I should restart it. So Field-Marshal only needs to get involved if whole machine goes down.
But it's instead of a single node.
Yeah, it is a single point of failure, but it's not a catastrophic point of failure. So that...
Would it be possible to run Field-Marshal like that in a way where it runs on every, it's the same as the Cavalry, so you run one of those on every node?
It's sure possible, it's just you add extra complexity there.
Right.
So, you know, like it could be done, I just didn't think it was worth the complexity trade-off. But hey, pull request, fork. Cool?
Can we all think? Oh no, one more question from the front.
So, we do a lot of our, yes, sorry.
I'm trying to break this one. We do a lot of our hosting on Heroku, mainly because it's so easy. Also because, you know what, small sites, it's actually free, which is nice. We don't pay too much, we pay a little bit when it matters. Just wondering if you've got any stuff available for, I mean, it looks awesome, I'd love to have a go, particularly because like the latency to Heroku sucks a lot. Get something up and it's running. Do you have any guides on, like, for someone who's used to using Heroku, moving to this sort of things that you need to do to replace your current work?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping this would be that guide, except nothing worked. So, yeah, look, I can write up some documentation for you as to, you know, exactly what things you need to know. This is harder than Heroku, because at the end of the day, you still have a machine that you need to administer and that you need to secure. But it shouldn't be too much harder than Heroku, and you do get a lot more flexibility. I mean, geographic location is the other thing. You know, if you're on Heroku, that's in the US. If you live in the internet gulag of Australia and you want to do stuff locally, you know, nodeJS does some Ruby on Rails stuff. That's kind of it as far as local PWSs go. So this, like, those were deployed on EC2 Sydney. So, you know, they're local and they're good for local stuff, especially if you've got data security concerns. So, not yet, but sure.
I'd love to be a guinea pig if you...
Cool. Yeah, I mean, we use it in production.
Just a general knowledge.
Cool.
Cool, thanks.
Can we thank David, please?
Thanks, everybody.